Hello, my friend, and welcome to Wisdom Trek. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, your guide to wisdom and creating a living legacy. Thank you for joining us for our 5-day per week Wisdom and Legacy Building podcast. This is day 398 of our trek, and today is Philosophy Friday. Every Friday, we will ponder some of the basic truths and mysteries of life and how they can impact us on creating our living legacy. Today, we are continuing on our trek covering the cycles and seasons of life. In particular, we're moving forward and focusing on the winter seasons of life. These concepts of which I've learned from Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, and of course the Bible. We are broadcasting from our studios at Home 2 in Charlotte, North Carolina. With our tight schedule and travel plans this week, I am recording this podcast a little bit in advance. When this episode is released, we will be back at the Big House in Marietta until late Sunday, when we'll be headed back to Charlotte once again. Weather permitting, my plans are to finish painting a small amount of trim outside the dining room area that we were unable to complete earlier this month. Depending on the growth of the lawn, I may be able to mow the lawn also. The seasons of each year are not unlike the seasons of our life. Growing up on an apple orchard, we became very familiar with the various seasons and what each season had in store for us. If we did not complete our task during the proper seasons, then it directly impacted the next season. During summer, there was mowing to do and gardens to weed. Nearing the end of August, the apple harvest season started, which lasted until late October. This was definitely the busiest season of our year. We had all hands busy picking, sorting, and storing apples. We also had a roadside stand that needed to be attended, as well as delivery to health food stores across the state. We had to work very hard, because even on the good years, all the income generated was barely enough to keep the 12 of us fed and clothed. On the bad years, it was slim pickings in every area of our lives. But after working hard during an extended harvest time, we kept in mind that there would be time for resting during the winter season. Growing up as a farmer, the cycles and seasons of life mean so much more. You must also realize that during your entire lifetime, there will be many different cycles of seasons. Just because a particular season did not turn out as you expected, don't let that control the entirety of your life. Each winter season is a time for reflection and planning, while each new spring season gives you an opportunity to start new again. This brings us to our trek for today, as we are considering moving from fall to winter within the cycles and seasons of life, and this section of our trek is titled, Be Prepared for Winter. As certain as night will always follow day, every season of life will have a time of winter. There will never be an endless summer, nor a continual harvest in the fall. Winter can make its appearance during any season as a brief reminder of its ultimate power. In midsummer, while you are consciously tending and carefully growing your crops, a winter-like storm in the form of hail and wind can momentarily descend upon you, threatening to take away the fruits of your efforts. Winter can make its threatening appearance during the season of planting and sprouting in the spring. And if you do not quickly respond to cancel out its potential devastating effect, the seasons of opportunity will be taken from you by one of these storms of life, leaving you with yet another full year of waiting. We certainly experienced this several years where the apple blossoms were hit with a late frost. Winter can also prematurely appear during the season of harvest, the fall, just as you're about to reap the rewards of your expended and extended human effort, and leave you with crops or a result of your work which are of little value. The first great lesson in life is to learn is that winter will always come, not only the time when the winter of cold, wind, ice, and snow are expected, but also at other times. Winters within your life can rear its cold wind and snow in the form of despair, loneliness, disappointment, or tragedy. It is the winters when your prayers go unanswered, when the acts of your children, whether young or old, leave you shaken and stunned. It is the winters of life when the economy turns against you and when the creditors come after you. It is the winter when competition threatens or when a friend takes advantage of you. Winter comes in many forms and at any time, both to the planter of the crops, as well to the person in business, and even to your personal lives. The arrival of these winters will find you in one of two categories. Either you are prepared or you are unprepared. If you are prepared, you have planted abundantly in the springs of your life, guarded your crops during the summer, and harvest massively during the falls. It is then that the winters can yet be another season of opportunity. It can be a time for reflection, a time for reading, a time for learning, a time for planning, a time for gathering your strength for the coming spring, and a time for taking the comfortable shelter of rest and relaxation. It can be a time of great enjoyment, a time to be shared with those you love and with those who have labored with you. It is a time for Thanksgiving and a time for sharing life's bountiful gifts. Winter is a time for being grateful, both for what you have as well as for what you can yet achieve. Winter is a time for rest, but not excessive rest. It is a time to enjoy the fruit of your labors, but not a time for gluttony. It is a time for warm conversations, but not a time for gossip. It is a time for gratitude, but not a time for complacency. It is a time to be proud, but not a time to be egotistical. Keeping in mind, though, that what you do with your time, with yourself and with your friends, and with your attitudes during the seasons of winter determines what you will do with the coming spring. You are meant to constantly improve your conditions, your results, and yourself. During winters, you can either improve or you can regress, for never do you remain the same. If you do not improve, it is because you do not use your intelligence, your reasoning, and your full potential. Finally, what you do not use, you lose. Through the lack of use, you may lose your intelligence, your reasoning, your potential, and your strength. When lack of use or misuse costs you your worthy human attributes, you predictably regress. Again, it is one of God's basic laws for life that demands either human progression or human regression. You should always be reaching to fill your God-given potential. When you are prepared for winter's arrival, you can use the season to properly prepare for the next season. Take advantage of the time to prepare in a relaxed and non-hurried environment to make wise choices so that when spring arrives, your plan is already in place. If you have not properly prepared, the arrival of winter is a time of regret and a time of sorrow. Having lacked the willingness to pay the pain price of earlier discipline, you now pay the heavier pain price of regret. The burdens and the chains of discipline will now seem insignificant when compared to the massive weight and cumbersome restraints of regret. Regret is an empty storehouse or an empty bank account and will result in an empty kitchen when the coming fall is still yet another full year away. Even with the arrival of spring, your efforts will be expended with an empty stomach or an empty purse. If you are prepared, winter is springtime in yet another form. But if you are not prepared, winter's arrival is full of horror and uncertainty. Love and harmony will give way to accusations and anger. Too many people live their lives in this manner. They live on other people's monies and resources until there are no more available. Without attempting to paint too negative a picture, think about your situation if you have not prepared in the previous seasons of your life. Coming to grips with the reality of this situation may be the catalyst that you need for improvement in the next season. The time to imagine the horrors of winter for which you are unprepared is in the springtime and in your mind. Let this picture paint you the chilling winds, the snow-blown fields, and the ice-covered trees. Imagine and then experience in your mind's eye the wailing of a hungry child, the disappointment showing in the eyes of the ones that you love. Emotionally experience the fumbling for excuses and the apologies of your past mistakes. The fear that comes with the knock on the door, the phone calls, or the delivery of the mail. Anticipating these scenes in advance can provide you with the shock that moves you to massive effort in the spring. It is those massive efforts that will prevent the horrifying images from becoming reality. There is still so much more to consider in the winter seasons of life, but that will have to wait as we ponder these thoughts until next week's Philosophy Friday. At that point, we will conclude our series on the cycles and seasons of life. Planting, nurturing, harvesting, and planting are all parts of the cycles and seasons of life. And it reminds me of Proverbs chapter 24, verse 27, where the wisest man who ever lived, King Solomon, instructed us to do your planting and prepare your fields before building your house. Now you might think it would be wiser to build your shelter first, but if you do this, then you will not have your planting done in time so that you can harvest during the fall. If you have shelter but no food, the winter nights will become long, cold, and you will be hungry. Plus, there will be yet an entire cycle of seasons to endure before the next food source arrives. This is the logical orders of the seasons of life. As Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1 tells us, "For everything there is a season and a time for every activity under heaven." You do have to realize that all of us will face obstacles and hardships in life, but that does not change God's immutable laws of planting, nurturing, and harvesting. We will harvest what we plant. We cannot allow these obstacles and hardships to be an excuse for a meager harvest. We all know those who have overcome massive mountains of opposition to produce a bountiful harvest in their lives. When you grasp this concept, then you can achieve the rich and satisfying life that Jesus offers us in John chapter 10, verse 10. Next Friday, we will finish our winter season of life and recap this series covering the cycles and seasons of life. But our next trek will be Motivation Monday, where we will explore the trails on how to get and stay motivated so that you can bring value into your world. So encourage your family and friends to join us and then come along with us on Monday for another day of Wisdom Trek, Creating a Legacy. That will finish our trek for today. Just as you enjoy these daily doses of wisdom, we ask you to help us to grow Wisdom Trek by sharing it with your family and friends through email, Facebook, Twitter, or in person when you meet with them, and invite them to come along with us each day. If you'd like to listen to any of the past daily treks, they are available at wisdom-trek.com. And don't forget to subscribe to Wisdom Trek so that each trek will be downloaded to you automatically. I would also appreciate it if you'd rate and review us on iTunes or Google Play so that others can find out about Wisdom Trek and join us each day. The journal for today's trek is available at wisdom-trek.com. And thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, your mentor, but most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through the Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. And as we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, and leave a living legacy each day. This is Guthrie Chamberlain reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and then create a great day every day. See you on Monday.